What is the stupidest thing you did as a kid to try and look cooler? In the 2nd grade, I thought it would be cool to record a song on a cassette tape and basically make a shout out to everyone in my class. It went something like, "Hey Alex, how you doing Sam? I like your shoes Colleen etc." I made the teacher play it in class. Less than halfway in I realized I had made a huge mistake. Longest 4 minutes of my childhood. That is really adorable though. I was the only boy at a girls' pool party. I thought I'd impress everyone by jumping into the pool while spinning like a dang top or something. I didn't jump far enough out and my chin came down on the concrete ledge of the pool. Blood everywhere. Party ruined. Stitches required. 20 years later I still have a weird mark on my chin. I molded a paper clip to look like a retainer and wore it to school. All the cool kids had dental work in 4th grade. I did the same. All the rich kids had orthodontics and I vehemently cursed my naturally perfect teeth. When I was in 6th grade I randomly scribbled what I thought looked like adult signatures all over my notebook. I then told my teacher that my mom knew the Lakers basketball team and these were all their signatures. Thinking back I realized that the scribbles looked nothing like signatures, but it was nice of her to play along. I did the same, but in the back of my yearbook in 3rd grade, I signed my classmates' names and even my teachers' names in my crappy 3rd grade cursive. Showed my mom and she kept her poker face the whole time. Mine is similar to Arp's. From when I was 8 years old my eyesight started to progressively deteriorate every year. Around this time I thought the problem was my eyes did not have enough light in them. I would stay awake at night and stare into my reading lamp to make sure I got enough light hours a day. Hours and hours of staring into a bright bulb. Collecting all those sweet lumens. Predictably, my eyes have only got worse. The first day of the 5th grade I thought I needed to look cool because I was finally an upperclassman of elementary school. So, my solution was to walk down the hallways pretending to count on my fingers all day. I thought showing off my counting skills would surely make me the coolest kid. Yay. Along that vein, I started 6th grade when all my neighborhood friends were starting 5th. When I got off the bus one day after school and they were all hanging out outside, I went over and showed off my cool 6th grade homework. Real slick. 3rd grade, I felt it appropriate to go to school dressed as Sunny from Miami Vice. White blazer, sleeves rolled up, pink pastel shirt, white pants, complete with pennies in the loafers, forced to remove my sunglasses. To this day I do not know why my mom let me go to school like that. Either I was hot crap. Looking back, I know why I was made fun of. I got on my bike, tied it to a freaking tree, and then pedaled as hard as I could. Went over the top of the bike and busted the heck out of my face. Not entirely sure why I did this, but my friends were egging me on something fierce. Good friends. Me and 5 mates to impress some girls decided to tie all of our bikes together with some rope and then proceeded to cycle away from each other in different directions as fast as possible. Dang, that crap was stupid. Stupid but also very funny. Fell going up the stairs at school and tried to play it off like I was relaxing or taking a break in the middle of a flight of stairs. Every time my roommate slips or falls, he plays it off like it was intentional. It's hilarious. At 4-H camp, cool kids decide to ditch the motivational speaker and go night swimming. I follow, deciding I too will be cool. 5 minutes later we hear yelling and a camp counselor coming our way. We all run to the dorms and I hide under a bed. The camp counselor finds us and advises us to go shower as the pond was actually a waste treatment lagoon. While showering one of the cool kids looks at me and turns to his friend saying, "Who is that guy?" His friend responds, "I dunno, I think he tagged along to be cool." Guilty as charged. Never swim in the square ponds. True words to live by. I was always, when I was younger, obsessed with superheroes I came up with myself. Whenever I went to preschool, and oftentimes kindergarten, I would show up wearing a cape, a bright yellow knit balaclava, it itched like heck, and a cowskin print vest and sometimes chaps. I don't even know what sort of superhero dude I had come up with, but I was always convinced it helped with the ladies. Nothing makes the ladies wet like balaclavas and chaps. In 4th grade I thought that if I intentionally answered an easy question wrong, I would get some laughs from my fellow classmates. So one day we're learning geography and my teacher asks, "Now 255, is Pennsylvania on the east or west of the USA?" I thought to myself, my time to shine, and I stupidly answered the west. Dead silence. Nobody had laughed or even chuckled. "No, 255, it's in the east, but good try." Oh heck no. Good try wasn't enough for this stupid little 4th grader. I needed laughs and I needed them now. So I did the only thing that I thought could get me a reaction at that moment. No, and then I slammed my head as hard as I could on my book. I guess I just wasn't at all funny to anyone back then, because there was still just silence. Needless to say, I just kept my mouth shut for the rest of the day. Oh man, I had almost forgotten about this one. I was in 1st or 2nd grade, and had a somewhat inflated view of my own intelligence. Naturally, I wanted to make sure that all the other kids knew how smart I was. Most days, for one reason or another, the teacher would have to send the class somewhere one student at a time. Whenever she did this, she would pick them in a random order. While this was happening, I would mutter numbers to myself, and every time someone was picked I would nod my head wisely, as if by muttering numbers I was predicting who would be next in line. I can't remember how long I did this. I was a special child. Maybe not necessarily cool, but I would always trip or stumble in front of girls I liked so they could pay attention to me. You know, maybe come to me and be all like, "Circle off jerk, you fell. I must nurse you back to health, with my love." Instead what happened was I'd fall. Barely anyone would notice, and those that did just snickered and left me there. I doubt I'm the only person that tried this though. Being still in school, I have to say the kid that does this, and stuff like spontaneously falling off of his chair, at my school is looked upon as a horrible person who quite obviously just does it for the attention. And he just does it for general attention, being a boys' school and all. When I was younger, all the cool kids in every single one of the cartoons I watched would always have slicked back hair and sunglasses. So, one day during recess in kindergarten, I pushed my hair back and I closed my eyes and started walking around the playground because I thought that sunglasses would have that same blinding effect. I walked around the playground with some swagger in my walk, expecting all the kindergarten hoes to be like, "Wow, that I see a 97 guy is so dreamy," but that didn't happen of course. And I ended up blindingly walking into the jungle gym and getting a bruise the size of a goose egg on my forehead. I was a stupid kid. Kindergarten hoes made me laugh really hard. In the 3rd grade at a Christmas play I thought it would look cool if I was being bothered by a fly. I have no idea how I came to this conclusion. In the middle of a song I pretended to look confused and started swatting at an imaginary bug I pretended was flying around my head. A few people in the audience kept looking at me funny, but no one said anything to me about it. Much later I found out the play was recorded and sent out to everyone's parents. The cameraman actually zoomed in on me the whole time I was thrashing at this fake bug. When my class saw it, my teacher pointed out that there aren't usually any flies around in the middle of December. My classmates treated me like I was mentally challenged for quite a while. In hindsight, maybe I was. When I was about 6 or 7 years old, we had a school assembly on name calling. The teacher giving it introduced the by asking which students had nicknames, and what they were, etc. Before moving on to talk about the difference between nicknames and bullying, I always wanted some cool nickname. I remember one of the kids going to the front of the hall saying his name was Red Ranger or some crap because his name was Jason, like the Red Power Ranger, and I was incredibly jealous. In my idiot small child brain, I thought if I make up a nickname now and tell the teacher in front of everyone what it is, everyone will start calling me by that name, and I'll have an awesome nickname. I guess I didn't have much time to think, and that combined with being a small child moron meant that the best I could come up with was Megasting. So I went up and said in front of the teachers in the room and the whole school that my nickname was Megasting. I told my family when I went home that I had a nickname and that was Megasting, and as any good family would do, they've never let me live it down since. I'm 24 now. I insisted on wearing a full suit to the state fair and carried around a little folding fan. I also wore lots of black turtlenecks and bought books based on their length so everyone would see me carrying around a giant book. I was a weird kid. I was probably about 8 when I heard somewhere that holding your urine when you need to pee can make it more difficult for women to achieve orgasms. I had no idea what an orgasm was at that age, but I would use that line anytime a coach or teacher told me I needed to wait to go to the restroom. I thought it made me look smart and grown up. I can only imagine what was going through their heads. No matter how heavy my backpack was, I would only wear it on one shoulder, with the strap super long, because it was insanely uncool to wear it in any way that wouldn't cause me pain. Now that I'm old, I wear on both shoulders, straps pulled snug, waist and chest straps engaged, and maybe even with a camelback. 14-year-old me would be so ashamed. One day when I was in late middle school, I was walking down the hall and some girls behind me called out, saying, "Hey, did you know that Katie likes you?" Katie was a very attractive girl. For some reason, I instantly said out loud, "Well, you can tell her I don't feel like I am mature enough really to be liking girls. I don't want to be with any girls until I am older." I then walked away with a smug as crap look on my face, as if I'd said something brilliant. TLDR. Self-sabotaged myself in middle school. And from then on, Katie had low self-esteem and only dated less attractive guys. In 3rd grade, I was envious of my friend who had glasses. I thought he was cool, so I thought having glasses would make me cool. Later that day, I convinced my mom I couldn't see the blackboard at school. She took me to the eye doctor, whom I also convinced I had a hard time seeing. It was surprisingly easy back then. He fitted me with a prescription that made me wince with pain when I wore them. Eventually I got used to it, and now my eyesight gets progressively worse with every new pair of glasses I get. The worst thing is that the kid I idolized wasn't even cool. He was an exact replica of Milhouse, and eventually left school because he was bullied too often. Guess who took his place? When I was in 2nd grade, all the kids were somehow under the idea that big dong were weird and small dongs were cool. We'd argue about who had the smallest dong and insult people by saying their dong was so long it could wrap around the world. Oh, man, I'm crying over here. Actually, this entire thread reads like a full season of Seinfeld if written by a 10-year-old Larry David. This isn't really something I did to look cooler, but it's a stupid thing story. When I was 3 or 4 years old, I tried to make the Powerpuff Girls. I had seen the beginning of the show and knew that the ingredients needed to create the Powerpuff Girls were concocted from sugar, spice, everything nice, and chemical X. I looked in all the kitchen cabinets and was able to find a bag of sugar and a pepper shaker. Next I needed to find everything nice, and I figured a couple flowers from my mom's garden would do. I was confused as to how I would acquire chemical X, but my ever so helpful brothers informed me that chemical X was found in toilet water. With all the ingredients found, I grabbed the biggest bowl I could find and a wooden spoon. I scooped up some toilet water and began my work. Mom came home to find an excited me mixing dead plants and toilet water in a sugary mess all over while my brothers laughed. The problem here is that you put the chemical X in purposefully. You have to accidentally add it to the concoction. In the 1st grade I changed my name. The name I chose, Fimp. I made it and thought it was so cool and original. Then someone called me Fimp the Wimp. Those in my 1st grade class remembered that one for a few years. The following year I also tried to be cool by changing my walk. I did this little extra hop every time I stepped on my right foot. I recently saw a video of myself doing this and yep, I looked like a gimp. Fimp the Gimpy Wimp. I would tell kids that I had iron skin and the bones that Wolverine from the X-Men has, so I couldn't feel pain. So I let kids take turns punching me, scratching or pinching me until I bled. I managed to keep a straight face, but I was yelling inside. But I got quite a few friends and the girls thought I was cool. I would sit in the most uncomfortable positions. Whenever we had to sit anywhere, I would sit like I was practicing yoga. After about a month no one would comment on it anymore, but I'd still do it. I was convinced that sitting with my calves on the chair, butt sideways on the back of the chair, forearms on the desk, and head arching up, I looked cool. Mid-60s, mod look was the fad in London. Think Austin Powers. I finally talked my mom into letting me get a turquoise long-sleeved shirt with black polka dots and white cuffs and collar. I want to see this shirt more than you know. It sounds awesome. I used to slouch my shoulders forward and droop my neck because I thought I looked like a gangster or a thug. In reality, I looked really lazy and now I have terrible posture. Lesson here, kids, thuggin' ain't easy. When I was in 2nd grade, I tried to impress this one girl I really liked by giving her the swing I was on. Of course, that wasn't good enough. I had to jump off the swing too. So I jumped off and landed on 2 feet, but my momentum carried me forward and I went straight into a nearby tree, breaking my right arm. Later, when I got to cast, I thought I could still impress this girl by being badass and getting a pink cast. I was made fun of by all my guy friends for months. It paid off though. She's now my wife. Twist ending. He's currently in 3rd grade. As for myself, I was really fond of Harry Potter when I was in early middle school. So every morning in the toilets, even before meeting any of my friends and all, I draw a thunder-shaped wound with a pencil to leave a red mark. I thought I looked cool when people ask me what is it, and I answer I wouldn't like to talk about it. Now it feels more like an oh god why memory. My friend also did this, but with a ruler. He now has scar on his forehead due to stabbing himself in the forehead with a metal ruler several times. In 6th grade I would do the moonwalk from class to class in the hallways and to lunch and pretty much everywhere I went. I cut my eyelashes off when I was 10 because the boy I liked was dating a girl with almost non-existent eyelashes and mine were really full and long and I thought he might like me more if I looked like this girl. It worked because 1 week later he was my boyfriend for the next 2 years. Haha, for some reason that reminds of a guy I knew in elementary school who wanted a part down the middle of his head and thought that you had to cut it rather than brushing the hair that way. He had the tiniest reverse mohawk I'd ever seen. When I was 10 years old I thought arm casts were cool, so I acted like I had a broke arm so I could wear an arm sling. After a few days of this my aunt decided she better take me to the doctor just in case I wasn't full of crap. I guess I thought I could fake my way into getting a real cast, so I was pretty excited. Of course my arm was fine so I didn't need a cast, but I did need a booster shot. I freaking hate shots, so I tried to run away. Haha. They ended up catching me and holding me down so the doctor could inject me while I thrashed around like a maniac. Thrashed around like a maniac and broke your arm. Whenever I'd get a new console game, I'd bring it to school to show it off. It can't be played or utilized but I dang sure wanted the other kids to see that I had the game. So stupid. We used to do that in school, bring in Xbox games and sit there reading the instruction manuals because only nerds didn't read the instructions. 6th grade. Brain dead idiot that I am, tried to impress some chick with my strength by punching some metal lockers to dent them. I succeeded in denting one and getting her attention. She called me an idiot but then I got attention from a teacher, then school nurse, then a doctor and finally a surgeon. 2 years and 37k after insurance I could use my hand fully. Sadly my pinky and hand break really easy now under any pressure still 17 years later. You must have certainly left quite an impression. When I was in 6th grade, I wanted to stop wearing whitey tighties, so I wore boxers. But they weren't comfortable so I wore whitey tighties under my boxers, and wore both to school for like the whole year. Solution: boxer briefs. My older sisters were into a lot of rap and hip hop in the 90s, and naturally I thought that it was cool because they were into it. So I would find old Mardi Gras gold beads, thick dark shades, and an old baseball cap and turn it around so it was backwards and start pretending to rap gibberish. I got my hair iced blonde because many of the popular boys were doing it, and tried to gel my hair like they did. Having no experience gelling, I showed up to school with awkwardly over-gelled hair and a giant glob of gel somewhere in the middle of my hair, which was subsequently pointed out in the eloquence expected of 7th grade boys. I tried to throw a party later that year in my grandparents' basement since basement parties were the cool thing in 7th grade. I made invitations and flyers, handed them out to everybody, but forgot to ask my grandparents if this would be okay ahead of time. They, of course, said no, which led to immense ridicule about being too lame to throw a party, but I did eventually become accepted by the popular kids. During the final junior high football game, Coach benched us 8th graders for playing like a bunch of malnutritioned butt barnacles. I made a comment to one of the popular kids that Coach Hoynes should play a wholehearted game of hide and go frick himself. The kid wouldn't stop laughing. He kept laughing long enough that Coach got mad and made him stand on the sidelines with him for the rest of the game. And he was still laughing. That day, I finally made a friend. I did that. For some reason it seemed like girls actually liked it. Then random passerbys would be like, hey, what's up Eminem amid school. Every morning when my mom dropped me off at school I forced her to change the radio station to a cooler one so when I got out the other kids would hear the music. I ain't gonna have no hollaback girl playing as I pull up. Dat crap bananas. When I was in elementary school, I was really into skateboarding. Every time I went into a scatter shop, I'd try to make my voice really low and act like I was 19 as opposed to 9. I kept on drawing the Triforce on the back of my hand with a yellow highlighter. Actually, now that I think about it, I did look pretty cool. I was trying to act like a bad butt when my friends and I broke into an abandoned house. There was an old microwave with its door open so I figured I should punch it to exert my dominance. Well, this microwave door had a mesh over the front of the glass so when I punched it, it acted like a cheese grater on my knuckles. I looked like the biggest P after that. You showed that microwave who was boss. Don't be ashamed. Sometimes small appliances need a beating to sort out the pecking order. I was sitting in my dad's car, waiting as he shopped. A friend was in the back seat. Through the parking lot came another kid, who knew my friend and they started talking. I got jealous that they were having a good conversation, and I was left out. I came up with an ingenious plan to flip the situation. I rolled down my window, turned to the kid outside, and said, "Punch me." I knew he couldn't hit my shoulder hard enough to hurt me, and I'd show everyone how tough I was. The kid seemed confused. Why, he asked. "Just punch me." Finally he walked up and socked me one, right in my face. I sat there in stunned silence, desperately trying not to cry, as he and his friend casually finished their conversation. As an 8th grader, I desperately wanted to fit in with the cool kids crowd, and had a desk deep into their territory. I noticed that any time they had to write something, they wrote it as small as possible, letters no bigger than a quarter centimeter. I clicked writing small as writing cool into my brain and began to emulate it to the best of my ability. Then, I begged my mom for some of those flowing ink pens, the ones that write really smooth. I figured, hey, the cool kids were using them to collapse their letters even more. I must also. So, I did, and was promptly reprimanded, because my teachers couldn't read my assignments any longer. Now, I don't try to make myself look cooler anymore. I love the thought process behind this. Like maybe one day, they'd look over, notice your tiny writing, and suddenly desperately want you in their group. I used to go to the park and walk up to random kids and tell them I was in 6th grade when I was really in 2nd or 3rd. When they'd ask me to prove it, I would say, well, do you know what 495 x 4692 x 1359 x 97 x 326 is? Because I do, and that's because I'm in 6th grade. The kids would always just nod and agree with me even though I had no clue what I was talking about, and then we would hang out on the swings while they'd ask me about 6th grade. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.